Hi. All right. God made a way for me to be here live with you guys today. Welcome to the Queen Amina show. It's going to be a gorgeous show today, wonderful day, and I hope you guys having a wonderful time out there. Our guest today is Faith Akovi Cooper, all the way from Liberia. She is going to be talking with us today. We're going to be discussing with her how to live an optimistic and a resilient life, even at this serious, unprecedented time. So let me bring her up, and she is right there. Welcome, Faith.
Hey, how are you, Amina?
I'm beautiful. Great to see you. How are you doing?
See you, my sister.
Awesome, awesome. You look wonderful. It's so good to see people smiling even when there are no reasons to smile. So,
Um,
yeah, God is good, huh?
God is always wonderful,
Awesome,
always wonderful,
awesome,
always on
awesome,
time.
awesome. You know what? I'm gonna just let you tell our audience who you are. Because again, people will be like, okay, she's talking about resilience. What does she know about
Let's talk
resilience?
about resilience.
So yeah, let's hear from you. Who is Faith?
Oh, who is Faith? Oh, Amina, it's so good to be here with you to this chat this evening. I've been following your show, and I love the fact that you're reaching out to people all over the world. And for me to be on tonight, just to talk about my story and how I am being resilient and optimistic in times of crisis. I mean, it means a lot to me. But let me just say, I am able to be where I am today just because of my trials and struggles, my personal story, which is one of story of hope and dreams and hard work and failures in some cases, and in other cases, wins. But most importantly, it's a story of resilience, optimism. And the topic we have tonight couldn't be more perfect for me and my personal life story because I keep those two very close, resilience and optimism. And I think that's what enables me to live a purpose driven life. Living and working in Africa, specifically Liberia, is by no means an accident. When I met you in Rwanda, about a year or two ago,
That's
we
right.
had the opportunity. Huh?
That's correct. It's
Yes,
about
about a
two
year
years
or two
ago.
ago.
Yeah.
And it was just fabulous to be around over 300 plus women from all over the continent of Africa. And I think what I gather from there is the need to tell our stories as survivors, as leaders, as advocates, as humanitarian, business women, you name it. So for me, Faith Akovi Cooper is one who has really healed what it means to be resilient and what it means to be optimistic, even during trials and tribulations. As I mentioned to you, after many years of working around the world, actually, I've traveled to and worked in over 42 countries, and specifically 25 plus on the continent of Africa doing humanitarian and disaster related work. But it was by no means an accident for me to move back to Liberia. And many people ask, why? Why would you be moving to Liberia, a country that went through 14 years of civil war, where the infrastructure is completely broken in some cases, still struggling to recover? We've been put back 50 plus years and still struggling to recover. A country that recently went through Ebola. But when I hear those questions, I immediately think about why not? I have a responsibility. I have a moral obligation to do more for this country that birthed me. And this is because of my personal experience, my family and I surviving the Liberian War, which I'm sure many of the viewers on your show today are very familiar with the fact that Liberia went through 14 years of conflict, which led to over 250,000 deaths across this country. And I even beg to differ. It was probably more than 250,000. And my family and I made it out of this country. And I think we were, some of the fortunate ones, but it didn't come easy. It came amidst struggles and trials and tribulations and challenges. We walked out of Liberia to the Cote d'Ivoire, And in the midst of walking for days without food and having to drink filthy creek water and seeing loss of lives, dead bodies along the way, nothing that a child should ever have to see, 9, 10 years old, then. And I kept those memories for a long time as I dealt with my own personal struggles, going through not only the war, but living in 2 refugee camps, being a refugee in Cote d'Ivoire, and then hitchhiking with family, young children, to Ghana, where we settled for about 2 years in a refugee camp. And the stories of surviving in that camp, it's just one of resilience, one of purpose, one of hope and dream, because not everybody made it out. So I consider myself, in the midst of all of that, someone who has had to be extremely positive and to really look back at what keeps me going. And there are a couple of reasons why. When I told my story in Rwanda, which brought us together, I talked about being missing from my mother. People talk about heroes. My mother and my grandmother are just the best gifts I could ever have in this world. And if it weren't for them, we probably wouldn't have survived. My mother went through her own struggles. She was separated from her children, the 3 of us, for over 2 years. We became separated from my little sister. For 2 years, I didn't know where my 4-year-old sister was. She was lost. She was an orphan. And so those stories along the way have really kept me going. So when I think about surviving, when I think about having lived in a refugee camp, when I think about having experienced some of the most excruciating pain that a child should ever have to experience, I don't consider myself a victim. I see it as an opportunity to really dig deep and find positive inside. And also understand their failures. As I mentioned, it is by no means an accident that I'm here. I felt I had a more responsibility to do more. During the Ebola outbreak, I was also in this region working on a ECOWAS, a regional project to train 15 countries in West Africa about disaster preparedness. Imagine, I mentioned I was in Ghana as a refugee, and then returning to Ghana over 20 or close to 20 years later to now work on a regional disaster preparedness program. That is not by any means a coincidence. It's because I live by the motto, to whom much is given, much is expected. And I also believe strongly in a concept of building back better. And that's what I want to talk about on this show today when we talk about resilience and optimism. How do we take our personal experiences and turn it into one of positive? How do we allow ourselves to go through the mess and rise up above that? So that is who Faith Akovi Cooper is.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Faith, for that short but very detailed explanation of who Faith is. Before we go into the topic, building back better, we have some people behind Gel and TT. Could you guys please connect through Queen Amina show? The link, I think Faith mistakenly sent it to you guys. So what you do is you go on Facebook or YouTube and type in Queen Amina show, and you will be in the audience. That way we'll be able to take your questions, because if I bring you guys through here, you'll be live on the show.
Oh, that's interesting. That means my mother is probably live as well. I sent her the same link by mistake.
So, mommy, please connect through Facebook, and then you will be in the audience. So I'm seeing the TT and
some good friends.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining the show. We love you very much, and we want to have you join the show, but not through the studio. Okay.
That's funny. Obviously, I don't do this enough. You do it for a living, so I absolutely love it.
I know.
And I don't know what goes in behind the scenes.
I know, that's okay. They're very welcome, though. It just shows, oh, Jill is back again. Or maybe she has a question for you. Let's see if we can see her. No.
Yeah. Going in there.
Okay. So see, Jel, if you're hearing us, if you're hearing us, please join through Facebook or YouTube on
Let
the
me send a message
Amina
to some
Show
friends.
page. All right. That is so cute. I love that. See, we are very, very informal on this show. Everything is okay. All right. So, while we let
Okay, so
you,
I'm sending them messages, including my mom. I sent you the wrong link.
yeah, just tell them to check Queen Amina Show on Facebook or YouTube, and they can join through there.
Okay.
We have a friend here all the way from the UK. It says, great to hear you watching from Sheffield, UK. Thank you so much, Mr.
Awesome.
Abel. We have Bemi Sola, all the way from Calgary, Alberta. Thank you for joining. She said optimism and resilience is important for living. Yes, it is. Thank you so much for that comment. Guys, send in your question through the comment section because we're going to have a question and answer section where Faith will help us through. Jill is still coming behind the scene.
Okay, I'm texting again.
Okay.
And I know, because there's different kind of components, right? So I mean, like, and I don't know, again, when you and Drew evaluate this, like the fluid path contacting type components, do we treat it any differently than the other components? I think we should just kind of evaluate that.
Was he talking as part of the show?
I don't know, but it's best to mute.
Okay. So that's all I'm going to do if he comes at the back of the stage again. Okay. So no problem. Yeah. Well, Faith, we're going to move right on here. We have a lot of people watching. Please, as you guys come in, would you help us share the video, the broadcast? I mean, please help us share the broadcast so that other people can.
Okay, there you go. Now I see it live on Facebook, so I'm going to ask my mom to join that way.
Yes. Okay. So
okay, she said she's on.
Okay.
Mommy figured it out. Hi, Mom.
Yeah, just tell her if she posts hello on the comment section, I'll see her.
Mom, you can say hello. You need to take credit for this.
Oh, I love what someone says. She said this lady right here is the definition of resilience and optimism. That's from Congo Doso.
Oh, that's wonderful. One of my mentees.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I agree with you, Congo, because when I saw Faith in Rwanda and Faith was speaking, like I said to her behind the scene, there were just so many people on the stage speaking. But what connected me to Faith was her story. And the same way my ears was tuned off when everything was going on. But when you started telling your story, my attention got reconnected back to the stage. And I want you to please do that for the audience today, because a lot of people in life today, their language is no hope. Because the I tells the story. Your eyes tells the story that your brain takes, and then it gets transported into your heart. And then your heart captures that vision that your eyes has sent. So most people see the trouble, the pain, the sorrow, the misunderstanding, the mistreatment, the jealousy, the envy, you name it. That's all people see today. So, and those messages going through the brain into the heart don't point to anything like hope. So you see a lot of people suffering. Then the rate of suicide has increased. The rate of mental issue is on the rise because of things like this. So if you don't mind, I really want you to help somebody out there watching us today that there is hope. Because telling your story would do that, would do just that. Because you are real, you're human, and they're seeing you telling this story. So it's not a lie or make-believe story coming from Queen.
Absolutely, Queen. I mean, definitely. I love the fact that you said what they see. I would say the refined product. because it's never a finished product.
That's right.
It's a continuous process. You know, when you talk about resilience, you talk about adapting,
Mhm.
right? You talk about adapting to challenges and situations that you go through and finding the positives. And, you know, I was just saying to someone the other day, not every experience in it will be positive. Some
Mm.
of them will be experience of fear. Some of them will be failure to take that next step.
That's
And
right.
so you have to then realize, especially when something of this nature happens that has completely locked down the entire world. You know, we haven't seen anything of this magnitude. We
Never.
experienced Ebola in the West Africa region, over 27,000 infected, probably over 100,000 affected, you know, but 11,000 deaths. And that was primarily in West Africa. We dealt with those challenges. But at this level, this magnitude of the entire world coming to a screeching halt, imagine the impact, especially for a continent like Africa, where
Mm.
social distancing, it's not part of our culture.
Mhm.
We rely on the informal economy to survive in this
That's
part of
right.
the world. So
That's
the whole
right.
idea of staying at home, social distancing, not going out to make a living,
No.
imagine the impact it's having on people. So
Mhm.
I think one of the things we should realize is that, yes, there will be some of us that will come out of this unscathed. We may not be infected, but the impact will be felt for a long time. And
Hmm.
that's why I tell people to reach in, allow yourself to be vulnerable. We all have vulnerabilities. We're
Mhm.
not perfect. There are days where I struggle with my own personal challenge, you know, being a single mother, raising two children, being the head of an international organization operating out of Liberia. And so you put all of that together and you say, why? Why should I be doing this? The question is, why not? It's
Hmm.
because there are many young girls and boys out there, young women across the continent, across the world, that need to hear stories of hope. And frankly, I believe that until we tell our stories, someone else will tell it for us, and they won't tell it the way it needs to be told. What do I mean by that? Until the lion, think about this. This is an analogy we use quite a bit in Africa. Until the lion rise up and tell what happened, the hunter will always be the one to tell the story. And so I think one of the things we should realize is that
Okay, sorry about that, guys. I think we're having difficulty, and look who we have behind. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. She's alive. She's still smiling. She's awake. I think your microphone is muted.
Oh, I made it through all that dancing yesterday. Oh my
I I
God.
I could not believe you. Like I passed right out. I couldn't. I could not
I
understand
wasn't
how
sure
you
that
did it.
I wasn't sure my hands and my feet were going to work this
I
morning.
don't know how you did it. So don't know how you did it, but he made a way. I think that's what.
It was fun. It was fun. I'm sorry. Good morning, sister.
Hey,
That's
good
our
morning.
powerful
How are you?
speaker. I am excited. I am beautifully and wonderfully made by God.
amen, amen to that.
That's
Faith,
good.
before we lost you, you were saying something, but before you say that, guys, you guys already know the beautiful face. That is the third person here. Every Tuesday, Thursdays, she co-hosts with me. She's in the person of Dr. Princess Mokolo, who celebrated half a century yesterday, believe it or not. And I know behind the scene, 48 hours she had no sleep. I mean, like these are online based parties. So can you imagine if she was doing like a face to face one? It would be
Did you guys
72
leave me
hours.
out of that?
I know you. Even I couldn't hold up with her. Like I fell right asleep with my phone was on my chest like this, and that was where I passed out yesterday.
Well, Faith, you can join us on a watch party. We could do it all over again. That's
Over
a
again.
decent
That's
I'll be
topic.
looking forward to it, Doc. I will. Thank you for the invitation.
All right. So yeah, before our co-host came on, we were talking with Faith Akovi Cooper. She wants
Yes,
the
please
whole name.
include that middle name. It's
That's
significant.
right. Super important because it's a traditional name, right? Yeah. So she was just talking to us about optimism and resiliency in this unprecedented time. So let us listen to her. We have Tony behind the scene, we have Jill behind the scene. Your cameras are turned off, and I know you're trying to connect to the show. To be part of the audience, you would need to go to Facebook or YouTube, and all you need to look for is Queen Amina Show. And you will be
Mhm.
live on the audience, and you can post your comments there so that Faith will be able to respond to them. Thank you guys so very much for picking interest in our show. Thank you. We'll see you guys soon at the audience. So I'm going to take you off the studio. All right, guys? Thank you. All right, Faith, take it away. Dr. Mokolo, do you have something to say before she goes on?
Well, I'm just, going to say it takes resiliency. It takes resilience to be celebrating 50 years, 4 kids, 4 boys,
Oh,
5
wow.
graduate degrees, juggling all of that. For you women out there, listen to what Faith has to tell us about how being a mother, being a wife, being a woman should not be an excuse for you to give up on anything.
Mhm.
All right.
Absolutely.
Faith, take it away.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that, Doc. Certainly. I mean, you mentioned one of my favorite things. Being a woman is not an excuse. We women have worked extremely hard. And in my case, I think before I disconnected somehow. I think I told you before I came on. It's raining very heavily in Liberia right now, so the internet connectivity might be a challenge. So hopefully, I won't disconnect again.
That's okay. We're used to that. Anytime
Okay,
you
good.
connect, we'll bring you right back. Our
We can
audience
continue.
are very
But
used.
I was just saying, I was talking about the importance of accepting some of our challenges and realizing that we have to find within ourselves what makes us happy. We have to understand what our vulnerabilities are and work towards that and come out a better version of who we are. What do I mean by that? I started the show by just talking about my personal life story, having survived the war, having lived in a refugee camp. What you see today certainly is not a finished product. It's a product still in the making, right? And as a leader of an international organization here in Liberia, managing staff, managing my home as a single mother of 2 beautiful children, and now we're all being teachers as well as mom, which I've realized that teaching is not for me, it's not in my DNA. But what I want to talk about today is truly this idea about building back better. What do I mean by that? I don't take credit for this term. Building back better comes from the disaster management world, where it's an approach to post disaster recovery. It reduces vulnerability to future disasters, and it focuses on building resilience to address physical, social, environmental, and economic well being. But it allows us to be weak, but enable us to build back better. And that means being a better version of ourselves. Queen Amina, you talked about some of the challenges we're going through right now, mental health. Coming out of this, we will experience psychosocial needs. Even if you walk away without being infected by COVID-19, you still will be somehow impacted. And that's what we're dealing with. You have the primary, health risk related to COVID-19, but you also have equally secondary impact that affects all of us. We're going through loneliness. We are questioning ourselves. What is your purpose in life? You are asking about mistakes you may have made in the past and circumstances that you went through. But at the end of it all, I think what's important for people to understand is that we have to find the little wins and capitalize on it. We have to understand that we can't be afraid of failure. I've been through multiple failures in my lifetime, but I've also had a few wins. And I take my time to focus on the wins. And I find that if I do that and keep that positive mindset, it truly helps me to be more resilient. Resiliency simply means adapting the challenges that you have around you, adapting to change, which is what we're doing now with COVID-19. And I've had to be resilient multiple times in my life, but it doesn't mean you're always strong. I want our audience to remember that. It doesn't mean you should walk around with this, I am a strong person and nothing can affect me, because it's not healthy. You have to allow yourself to be vulnerable. You have to allow yourself to live through the failure. But what comes out of that is like a diamond in the rough. What comes out of that is a working a product. And it's a process that allows you to self-reflect, to realign, and to really determine if the path that you were on pre the crisis, in this case COVID, or if it was Ebola, or in the case of my personal experience, the Liberian War, and other crises that have happened within my personal professional life. It allows you to really reflect. You know, I have a good friend who always says we have three different components of our lives. You have your personal, your professional, and your private. And I learned that recently from a good friend. And each of our lives, when we go through a crisis, each component of that is impacted. So when we analyze our situation, it allows us to look at the areas. I bet you have people questioning now whether the profession they went into was the right profession for them. Their spouse may be at home during this time, and they're finding, is this the right relationship for me? They are questioning loneliness, hope, challenges with children. There are different types of crises. But at the end of it all, I want all of us to walk away understanding that everyone has a story to tell. But you must be the steward of telling your own story. We all have to take our mess and turn it into our message. And I don't take credit for that quote. I heard it recently. You take your mess and turn it into your message, and say to people that I'm not going to let it hold me down. This is temporary. This is a process that's needed for me to self-reflect and determine if the path that I'm on is a purpose-driven life. And that's what it's about. That's what building back better means. It means becoming a better version of yourself. And I'm not there yet, but I certainly celebrate what I've been able to do thus far with the help of so many people around me, family, friends, mentors. I don't take credit for it all. You know, and my mother is listening on this line. I just want to say she has been my inspiration, given all that she's been through as a single mother, raising 5 children, you know, 3 of her own and then 2 adopted children. In the face of it all, she never gave up. And that's where I get my strength from. That's where I get my resilience from. And she's such an optimistic person that you can't help but to be. So it's surrounding ourselves with positive people. It's realizing what's important to you. And it's really self-reflecting and analyzing and realigning and realizing that your situation isn't forever, but this is the time for you to find your purpose. I'll stop there because I'm sure there are some questions.
Wow, Faith, thank you so much for that. When you started speaking, you started by saying how you guys walked a very long distance during the war and you survived that. I don't even want to begin to imagine what must have been going through your mind as a little child. Would you mind sharing those days with no food? You're in the bush. Anything could happen in Africa. We know we have snakes, we have, name it, scorpions, whatever. But What was going through your mind as a child, seeing so many dead bodies? You walked through them, you saw them,
Mhm.
you survived. When you
Mhm.
look back now, what was
Mhm.
going through your mind as a little girl?
When I look back now, I say to myself that it's it's certainly there's one thing I always want to say about that experience. If you were to ask me today, do you regret surviving the war or going through the experience, I would tell you no. I've
Mm,
learned as an adult not to regret too many decisions. We all make mistakes, but
mm,
they are intended to be lessons learned as long as you learn from it. So for me, the experience with the war, that experience shaped who I am as an adult. I would not be where I am today talking to you about hope, resilience, optimism, dream if I didn't go through that experience. And as a child, no child on the face of this earth should have to experience what I did. Seeing women being raped, watching beheadings, attacks on pregnant women, and my family, my grandmother, making the attempt to lead her children to safety. And if it weren't for her and her strength, I can't say I even take credit. I was a 9-year-old child, but I still remember it fresh in my mind. Think about it, as a 9-year-old child, you don't forget these things. Maybe 4 or 5. The memory is something else. And one of the things I don't know if I remember this or I promised myself this or I've lived it over the years is never giving up. You know,
mm.
I survived, but I was wounded in that war. You know, and I carried those wounds. I was wounded physically as well as mentally as well as emotionally. So the refined product you see is looking back and saying there are other kids that went through the same thing, but they didn't survive. They may have died from hunger. They may have been brutally raped, dehumanized. We went nights without food. We lost relatives in that war. But yet and still, I use it as a positive experience. So what was going through my mind? I believe hope, knowing that I used to promise myself as a child, if I survive this, I will come back and save all of the children on the continent of Africa, whoever. Initially, I wanted to be, you know, a prosecutor lawyer so I could get all of the bad guys, right? All of the
Wow.
rebel soldiers that had guns during the war. And then over time, I realized, okay, no, I think I can do more around humanitarian work and really help, instead of focusing on the rebels and the bad people, focus on the children that you can help. And that's where my life is where it is today. I took from that experience and grown what you see today because it's been a driving force for the kind of work that I do. And so having young kids around Liberia, the continent of Africa, looking at me and saying, she survived the war. There is no excuse for not moving forward. And so for me, that is the most important message you can send. And one of the things for me is to be able to use that to empower other women and children.
So when you guys arrived finally after so
Mhm.
many days in the bush, what did you say? Do you remember? Did you look at your mom and say we made it, or you just what was that feeling?
The feeling was of despair. And the reason being, when we crossed over and you've heard my story before, when
Yes.
we crossed over from Cote d'Ivoire, or when we crossed over from Liberia, you know, in the Mana River Union, there are porous borders. And Cote d'Ivoire borders Liberia as does Sierra Leone, Guinea. And when a crisis happens of that nature and people separate, that's how children become isolated from their parents. In our case, we went in the direction on foot to Cote d'Ivoire, the Ivory.
Wow.
My mother went in the direction of Sierra Leone. So when you say what
Wow, Dr. Mokolo. Guys, just a little bit of internet issues there. She would be right back. I think we got her back. Did we
Yes.
get you back? Awesome. Okay. Go ahead. Okay, no, I think we lost her again. Yeah, we're gonna get her back soon. Yeah, we got her back. Go ahead.
You have me? Okay. So
Yeah.
I'm having some internet connection issues, but you're used to this
No
when you're
problem.
interviewing in places
We're
with
good.
limited capacity.
Yeah. We're good.
So anyway, I was answering your question. Are you still there?
Yes, we're here. We're listening to you.
You said to me, if I recall, what did you say to your mother? I
Yeah.
didn't have my mother. My mother was separated from us for over 2 years. We were with my grandmother who took us to safety. And I think at that age, you don't even know how to explain what just happened. There are
Yeah.
no words that can explain it. But then you start to relive it later on. And after immigrating to the US, for years it took time to really process that. To even think back to what happened when we crossed that river, because we got to the border and I couldn't swim. Neither could my brother or sister. And there was a good human, what do you call it? Just a good human being. I don't know if that man ever survived, who took us across the river on his shoulder because we couldn't swim. And so, because of that reason, now I invest in making sure my daughter's just in case.
Wow, wow, wow.
I smile about that now because I don't see it anymore as victimization. I see it as I have so much to live for, and I have to teach my young children that they have so much to give this world and to learn how to be respectful and good human beings. So I use those experiences and I tell my kids the story all the time. They're always asking, Mom, so where was grandmother? And what was our great grandma? And what did you do when you
Aw,
those questions come up, but they are meant to be teachable experiences. So it's all part of the growing process.
wow. Thank you so much for that again. You are a very strong advocate for women and children in vulnerable places. And how is that experience going when you share your stories? I see someone here that is cheering you up, has benefited so much from your life story, and she's been posting stuff here. How is that experience when you come into the presence of this kind of women that must have survived sexual abuse or war or even mere hunger? How is that experience going when you sit with them and you share with them?
It brings a life to what they're experiencing. It's difficult to convince someone that you can have hope and make it if they don't see people who have experienced similar things.
That's
So
correct.
it brings life into it. And it's a story of hope. And they see that they too can survive. So yeah, that experience is going good. It's something I'm committed to, women's empowerment, being an advocate for children, especially vulnerable children. And it's an area of life that I've truly committed myself to and will always be a part of me.
Awesome. But Dr. Mokoro, please jump in if you have questions.
Doctor,
Yeah,
you're looking so
how is
beautiful tonight. I need a few tips from you.
right? She's always
It's a
high
gold. It's a
energy.
golden. It's a golden day. It's a golden day for me.
Yeah. So while she's preparing to bring in her questions, for those of us watching today, what would be some of the tips that you would say? These are the ways I walked through mine. By no means you're being a doctor here or a psychologist or a professional advisor. We are just learning from your personal experiences. So growing up after surviving all of this, what are some of the things that you do up to date? Because I know this kind of memories will never go away, but there are things that you are doing in your private life that helps you go
Mhm.
through each day. So what are some of those things that we could learn from today?
One in particular is never taking anything for granted, especially time. Making use of your time, using it to drive your purpose, using it to work on yourself and your dreams and what matters to you. It's also it 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 also it it enables you when you reflect. One of the second thing, so not taking anything for granted. I don't take anything for granted. Opportunity, time spent with family and friends and loved ones, volunteering in the community, ensuring I commit my time. But the other part is I'm taking the time to tell my story. And I've said frequently that until we tell our stories, someone else would tell it for us, and they won't tell it the way it needs to be told.
That's right.
So if you want your story to be told, you've got to be in the front of it, and you've got to take ownership and stewardship of steering it the way it needs to go. So I truly invest in doing that. Am I the best at it? No, I'm still writing a book that I haven't finished for the last 10 years, but it's making its way there. You know, hopefully you all will support it when it comes out. But not taking things for granted is telling my story, is realizing that I owe it to society to give back. And when you realize that you have a responsibility, not only a responsibility, but a moral obligation to give back, it gives you even more drive to do more. It's opening up. It's also being vulnerable. And then lastly, the fact that I have two girls. The best way we can change this world is to train our children in the way they should go. I tell my children all the time about what I went through. I don't ever want that to happen to them. But I prepare their minds to understand that this world is something else and you've got to be ready. So by doing those things, it really enables me to offer my best self, but also to spend time on reflecting. I'm always finding something new to do. I'm always looking for a new country to travel to and learn about culture.
I see that you have traveled 44 countries. I see that.
Yes. And majority on the continent of Africa. So I'm really proud about that.
That is amazing. That's amazing. And most of your work too, you have worked with about 23 African countries. Now, do you think that this COVID-19 lockdown situation is bringing any significant change in the continent of Africa?
I certainly hope so. I think it will. I think unlike Ebola that was centralized to the Mana River Union countries, Guinea, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and then of course it's in the DRC. DRC dealt with it as well, and I think it's being emergent. This COVID-19 is different. It's taken over the entire world, and so that means Africa as a continent, especially many countries that are heavily reliant on aid to survive, it's really bringing some of these challenges that the continent faces to light. The economic challenges we're facing, the level of poverty, the impact on women and children will be felt for a long time. This is an opportunity for the continent, its leaders, its citizens, people who love Africa, to really look at a journey to being self-reliant as countries. This continent cannot continue to rely on aid to move forward. It must find a way to be self-sufficient. It must find a way to deal with its vulnerable population and really to address some of the overarching and systemic issues related to poverty, related to health system. Imagine when you live in Africa, the big boys and the leaders and the ministers and those who are doing well, they can afford to fly to the UK or the US for treatment. In the world of COVID, there is travel restriction. Nobody is going anywhere. The very system that you didn't invest in and build is the very system you now have to rely on to provide care for you. So if COVID doesn't change the narrative on the continent of Africa, I don't know what will. But at the same time, I must say I am proud to see the way some of the countries are responding. They are bringing innovation.
That's right.
They are looking at the resources they have internally and applying that to responding. So COVID-19 would change Africa narratives. If it doesn't, then I don't know if we'll see that in our lifetime. But it's revealing the challenges that we've had, systemic issues we've had for a long time.
Thank you so much. Dr. Mokolo. Is she?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
When we talk about we're talking about resilience and optimism, and our sister, no one could have said it better than her, because she has lived this experience and it's real. My comments will just be around how it's important for us to learn to rewrite the narrative. If you want to live a life where you rise above all of your, most of your challenges, where you wake up each morning and you look out of the window and your attitude is like the weather. It could be, you're open to whatever it is. If it's a rainy day, if it's, it's a new day. And, so in order to be effective at that, you have to learn to rewrite the narrative. So the things that have happened in your life, you look at that story, and she talked about telling your story. And if you don't tell it, someone will tell it for you. I want to add to that you could tell your story in the way that is most encouraging for you. You could tell your story in the way that will cause that story not to cause you trauma every time you rehearse it. And so you had some experiences, and then you tell that story from the perspective of what you have realized was the blessing.
Absolutely.
What was the lesson? What was the blessing? What was the opportunity? And so instead of holding on to the parts of the story that are not going to help you move forward, you could rewrite that narrative. Oh, if it was not for this, I would not do this. If it wasn't for COVID, I wouldn't have the time to develop myself the way I have. My family would not have the time to have bonded so well around prayer life and prayer time. If I had not been unemployed for this number of years, I may not have gone to do this. So I want us to encourage ourselves as we tell our stories to rewrite the narrative. Rewrite that narrative to where it becomes your motivation for the future. Rewrite the narrative to where you will become a testimony. It shouldn't be about a pity party, because I'm a person of faith, and which I believe that for those of us that believe that God is in control of our lives, as we tell that story, let us tell the God part. Let us tell it from the God part. Let us tell it from the destiny part of that story. How did that occurrence, that experience, how did God show up? And how did I learn? What did I learn? And how is it going to align with God's plans and purposes for me? Rewrite the narrative. And that's how you grow in resiliency, because then that makes you stronger, because you recognize the strength from where you're coming from what you've been through. And that's how you don't look like what you're going through.
I love that statement.
Thank you, Doc.
Yeah, I love the statement. That statement, Faith used it, and Dr. Mokolo just used it again. That you don't have to look like what you are going through. I tell people all the time, I said, it doesn't cost you anything to put on a smile. Even if it's a fake smile, very quickly your system will begin to believe that fake smile. And it's just going to start coming from within. And when it starts coming from within, that's when you begin to experience joy. The difference between happiness and joy is very, very simple. Happiness is tied to something that makes you happy, something that you're seeing, something you're touching, something you're feeling makes you happy. When that thing is not there, it disappears. But when you have the unspeakable joy that wells from within, I use my husband as an example. He would wake up in the morning, believe it or not, the heavens are falling down, the earth is going up. He'll be dancing. and I will wake up. Sometimes his dance wakes me up. And I will wake up and I would be looking for the music he's dancing to. You know, if you're back home, Yeah, you would just wake up one day and say, "Oh, I've lost my husband." You know, I will be trying to listen to. Okay, where is the music that you're dancing to first thing in the morning? And then he goes, "I am alive. I am awake. Can't you hear the music?" I'm like, "What
Yes.
music?"
Yes.
It took me a long time to get where it is coming from. It really took me a long time. And
Your
my
happiness.
my plea to us watching us today and the people that watch this broadcast later is find something within yourself, within inside. Don't allow your environment to determine your happiness or your joy. Don't
Yeah.
allow what you see or what you're feeling to determine if you should be happy or not. Just
Mhm.
find something within you to
Mhm.
give you that unspeakable joy. That is
Absolutely.
what you will be able to hang on to and become resilient through situations. If you don't
Absolutely.
have that joy, the life itself is very discouraging. You wake
Absolutely.
up first thing in the morning, your mattress is over 6 months old. That is a discouraging feeling already because it hurts your back. So that's the truth. There's so many reasons to make you never be happy. So you don't wonder. You
But you
know,
have a choice to change it.
you have a choice to change it. And that's my whole point. You said something earlier that I wrote down that if you don't tell your story, other people will tell the story for you. Let's leave individual. Let's go to our continent, Africa. The people,
Hmm.
other people in the Western world has been telling the story of Africa for the
Far too long.
longest time. And the
Um,
stories have never been right.
the
You know,
narratives is
stories
what others want to see.
never exactly. So when will Africa arise and begin to tell the story of Africa? We're 1.3 billion people. And I don't think up to 100,000 of these people are telling the African real story enough. So,
Absolutely.
when will Africa arise and begin to tell the story of Africa? I had a guest yesterday that was so passionate about the story of Africa. He went
Mhm.
and he was studying he didn't do history in school, but just
Mhm.
because he wants to tell the real story of Africa, he read every single history book that there is in existence about Africa. For me,
Mhm.
that is a passionate person that wants to tell the great story of Africa. So
Mhm.
Africa arise and begin to tell the
And
story
it
of
starts with
Africa.
each of us, Queen. It
That's my
starts with each of
point.
us. What you are doing, it's truly opening the doors for Africa to tell its story. And I think if we wait for it to be done collectively as a continent, we'll be waiting forever. We can use the concept of each one reach one, each one teach one. All it takes is one person
Say
to
that
tell
again.
another person and to tell more.
Say that again. Say that again.
I said, if we wait for Africa to tell our story collectively as a continent, we'll be waiting for a long time.
That's right.
But if we adopt the mindset of each one, reach one. So each one, reach one, each one, teach one. So
Wow.
for every individual that you teach, they commit to teaching someone else, it becomes a snowball or a ripple effect. Before you know it, the story of Africa will become alive. But the positive story coming out of Africa and the changes that need to happen will be told so that we can take a responsibility to
I love that.
it.
Martina says we women are even more stronger than we ever think. That's correct.
Absolutely,
I
Fortune.
agree with that. If you don't reach within yourself, you would never know how strong you are. I always tell people, I said, you become even stronger when strong is the only strong thing you would ever want to do. So,
But I also say understand what your weaknesses are. You need to be able to understand that to build your strength. If
mm,
you don't know your weaknesses and your challenges, how do you avoid it the next time?
that is a very valid point. When you're able to understand your weaknesses, then you be
Mhm.
able to build from there into
You can build
your
from there. That's
strength.
the concept of building back better. It's understanding what are some of those challenges that you experience and using it during your recovery period to build a better you.
I had
Yeah.
a guest on the show too that said something so profound in connection to building back better. And what stood out for me in that statement she made, he said, you have an incubation period, and then you have a survivor mode, and then you have
Mm-hmm.
a sailing mode. And she
Okay.
said the incubation period is the time that you're going through, and then you come to the survivor mode. And that mode, he said, survivor, you have a breath to hang
Mhm.
on to. And she
And you
said,
hang.
if you stay in that survivor mode for so long,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna die. Why? Then she did an exercise where you hold your breath for a little bit, and she's like, you see, you're gonna
You
die.
can't do it forever.
Never remain in the survivor mode. And then she goes, you go into the selling mode. When you get into the selling mode, then she went ahead to say, in that selling mode, there would be wind and storm. Then she gave an example of the sailor. He said, when
Mm-hmm.
the wind begins to blow, that's when the sailor sails even better, because the wind becomes the medium that the sailor uses to sail. So it
Oh
was
my God, that's a
so
wonderful
powerful.
analogy.
I know. Patricia Mawa is her name.
What we're going through with COVID-19. Imagine being locked up in your home and can't go anywhere and just
No.
you're in that mode. You go through those various phases of,
Mhm. Yeah.
trying to survive, and you get to a place where you say, okay, I'm going to rise up and I'm going to be the best me when COVID is over.
Yeah, that's right. Well, thank you so much, Faith. I'm trying to stick to the 1 hour because, guys, we're going to be moving onto a television network broadcasting, and they would
Okay.
only allocate 1 hour to us. So I would love to continue to chat with Faith, because this is super interesting. But unfortunately, we will have to shut down the broadcast in another few minutes. Before I do that, I would let Faith, if my co-hosts don't have any other question or comment for her for now, I would let Faith give us her final words, and then we'll take it from there. Dr. Mokolo, your mic is muted. So can you hear me?
I hear you loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So do you have more questions for her or comments so before she leaves?
Let her give us her final words.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Faith.
Wonderful. Thank you, Amina. I mean, the queen herself, I'm so happy to reunite with you again, though virtually. And thank you for having me on this show to talk about two things that are critically important to me: optimism and resilience. And as I mentioned, resilience is adapting in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, crisis. And that's what we're going through as we deal with COVID-19. But remember, we have to celebrate the wins. We have to identify what our failures and fears are, and have to work towards it. And most importantly, if you don't remember anything from this program tonight, I want you to remember that we need to build back better. I don't take credit for that statement, but I apply that statement to my life because it's about the recovery period. It's allowing yourself to go through the storm and then rising up to be a better you so that you can tell your story, because no one else can tell it the way you need to tell it. So I thank you for listening to us this evening. It's been such an excitement. And thanks again, Queen, for the invitation to speak to you this evening.
You are very welcome. Thank you for your time. I know it's pretty late in Liberia, and you took out time from your children to come spend with us today.
They were trying to sneak in the camera. I was like, no.
Oh, they can come, trust me, because it's all very
It's
informal.
a family
It's a
affair when mommy is
family
doing these
show.
things.
That's right. Yeah. Would you please just give a shout out to the Queen Amina show?
Queen Amina show, one of the best I've had it with. I love being on your show and I look forward to coming back.
Thank you so much, Faith. You have a
Thank you,
wonderful rest
sister,
of
for what you're doing, and keep doing. Keep telling the stories.
God bless you. We love you very much. Thank you so very much. And may God enlarge your course and empower you to be able to be a much bigger blessing to the world and beyond. God bless you.
Thank you.
Take
Amen. God
care.
bless you. Thank you.
All right. I have my goes, yay, happy birthday to you. Everybody, please type on happy birthday on the comment section to our wonderful co-host. She celebrated half a century yesterday. It was an all-day celebration, and the biggest part of her birthday celebration for me was the women that I personally spoke with. I personally spoke with them. It's not somebody that told me. The women that benefited 16 years and keep counting from the Lucima charity in Nigeria. It was so heart touching. It connected me back to my mom, my late mother, where as over 60, I think she was 66 years old. She joined the Lucima charity school. I mean, it's like an a skill acquisition center 16 years ago. She graduated and now she has her small business where she is helping a lot of other people around her. She's training her children through what she learned from the Lucima Charity School right there in Nigeria, in Lagos. There were over 16 or 17 or 20 of them yesterday, and a lot of them couldn't make it out because it was raining heavily. So I was just telling myself after I finished that broadcast, you guys can go on the Queen Amina show. If you don't believe what I'm telling you, go listen to the women confess themselves how beneficial the little thing that she is doing, changing lives with S, plural. It didn't change just the parents, the mothers, the widows, it changed their children's life because through the help they got from the Sima charity, they were able to train their children. One of the ladies was telling me that she was working and as an insurance agent, and she wasn't making headway. You know, she couldn't feed her family. Somebody told her about the Lucima charity organization, and she went to them. She learned how to do decoration, so she opened her own business, you know, doing events, and she was doing catering, and she was able to start, but she taught her children. Oh yeah, that was the powerful part. She now trained her children in everything she learned from Lucima Charity School, and now her children work with her. Two of them are going to the university. She's not worried. She's going to be able to afford the money for their education. And I mean, so many stories from that place. A 60 years old woman becoming literate with the computer, you know, from that school. That was amazing. You know, so I heard so much yesterday. If you watch the video, at one point I was crying. When I was growing up, I started crying. You know why? Because when I was growing up, all my mother wanted to learn was how to write her name. And there was no school for adults education that time. So I remember me and my sisters, we used to help her learn how to write a simple word as mercy. Her name was Mercy, and she was a very merciful woman. Throughout my knowing her, I never saw my mother angry. You know, I'm sure some of my family members are watching this. My mother was never upset. She was always very merciful to everybody, always wanted to give. But the one thing she wanted, she couldn't get because the system was not set up. So, guys, my point of preaching through all of this is if you want to help somebody somewhere and you can't go, Lucima Charity Organization is real. It's not a fake organization or in the la la land somewhere where you send your money, don't get to the people. Please connect with us on this show. I have the way you can connect with her is rolling at the bottom, or you inbox her on Facebook, Dr. Dr. Mokol. No, your page is Lucima.
Yes.
Lucima Charity. So you go there, please send a message. I have 5,000 naira. I have 10,000 naira. I have 1 naira. It's important. It doesn't matter how big. And I want to use this medium also to say a very big thank you to the few people that connected with me yesterday and said to send the account for Lucima Charity. I did send it. Let me know when you receive their transfer. That way I will publicly say hello to them also. So thank you guys all so much for always connecting with us. I'll let Lucima, Dr. Mokolo talk to us a little bit about her charity organization and So that way we can connect to support her. We're by no means trying to get people to give on this platform, but what is real. And me, I'm a big supporter of anything that is benefiting other people's life. This is how I want to live my life until I die. God hears me. I want to live a life of giving. And anybody giving, I want to support that person. So please take it away.
Hello, everyone. And yes, Lucima is real. We've been real for 16 years. We started 2004, and we have different programs that meets the needs of women in different aspects and different stages of their lives. We have a program for the widows, and yesterday's show was just celebrating some of our pioneer alumni of our widows empowerment program. We call that program the LUWEP. We had a bunch of them. It was raining. It was hard for them to come out, but they did. And, their joy is so palpable. They don't have all the money in the world, but they have joy, which money cannot buy. And that program, we support the widows by providing them with valuable skills to last a lifetime. We assess their situations, assess what they're currently doing, assess their level of education, and then we place them either with the computer, graphic design, for those of them that have high school diplomas. And for the others, we teach them catering. We teach them how to be party caterers. We teach them how to be housekeepers from a different standard than the communities used to. We call them certified home caregivers. And we're starting a new program for the widows starting in July. We're adding a range of skill sets in producing cosmetics and household cleaning products. The programs have been free for 16 years, and they still are free, all thanks to the support by our donors, our supporters. We also have the program for the young girls. We have a finishing school. It's called LUFISH, Lucima Finishing School, and this is for high school leavers. A lot of the curriculum does not emphasize some skills that are needed for the workplace. So we teach them these transferable skills that makes it possible for them fresh from high school to serve as administrative assistants, to serve as computer operators, to serve as graphic designers, as public relations officers. They're able to serve our country's small and medium scale businesses with skills that they did not or could not have acquired in high school. And this has changed so many lives. Our girls are able to go straight into the workforce after our training, and while they're working, they're able to pay to go to online they call it Nigerian Open University, and some of them go to part-time programs in the polytechnics, and they add so much value to their lives. We're going to bring back some of our Lufish alumni at some, pretty soon on the show. And we have the other program, which I am so grateful to God for. We started our other programs in 2004, but in 2012, the Lord gave me a vision for all the educators, all of our teachers in Nigeria to become computer literate. I had no clue that come 2020, we will be dealing with a COVID lockdown situation, and the teachers will need the skills to reach their students outside the classroom. But thank God I listened, and I went ahead with that vision, and we started school by school. We covered all the schools in the mainland. We reached out to the island, and today we're talking about hundreds, we're talking about thousands of teachers in Lagos State that have benefited from our program. We have the ones that have come face to face and felt and touched our programs. And we have those that have connected to us through our seminars, through our online community. And we've taught these teachers Microsoft Office skills. We've taught them internet literacy skills. We've taught them research skills for them to be able to connect to teachers all across the world. I am so grateful to God that these teachers work in having no clue what a mouse is. And they walk away with confidence. And today, many of them have been promoted. We had some of them in the Federal College of Education that were teaching in the secondary school. By 2015, they were promoted to become college teachers. They were teaching now the college students at the Federal College of Education. We're back again, this time with an advanced program for alumni of our teachers. The teachers program is called Lucima Computer Literacy for Educators. We call it Locolites. Our Locolites graduates are back and they're learning advanced internet literacy. They're learning online learning techniques and tools. They're coming back with a master's level curriculum to learn about teaching 21st century learners with technology. We
So tell
have, yes,
Yeah, tell me that all of this, they are paying so much money to you.
I wish they were. If they were, I'll be so rich. All our programs since 2004 have been absolutely tuition free. Our requirements are for the participants to obtain a form. We started with them obtaining that form for 500 all the way. I think currently it's 5,000 naira, Nigerian naira. That's less than maybe about $10, $15. But the beauty of it is we place that requirement for them to obtain the form and the registration. We place that requirement just for their commitment. I do not think 10% have even had to obtain that form with that fees because we built back a referral system. And so our graduates have an opportunity to give out 10 coupons. So they're able to refer their friends. If you have the coupon, then you get your registration for free. And so that has helped the program to be a family program because most of the participants are from referrals from their friends. We have two other programs I'll quickly talk about for our graduates. We have a program which we call an employment certification and entrepreneurship development program. A lot of our graduates who did not study core technical or core professional areas, if they didn't study education, medicine, pharmacy, or any of those professional skills, if they did history, biology, and they didn't do education, they come out and it's hard for them to get jobs. And they don't have computer literacy skills, which are so critical in today's world. So we take them and we teach them the basic computer skills. On top of that, we allow them to pick any of the skills acquisition specialties that we have. On top of that, we equip them with entrepreneurship development skills so that they can do for themselves. They can work, on their own. And in the event that they have the opportunity to get a job, we equip them with basic skills for them to increase their employability, interview skills, resume writing skills. We give them a multifaceted training in public speaking. We teach them how to present themselves and to be solutions and not begging for employment, rather to present themselves as a valuable contributor to an employer out there. That is our program for unemployed graduates. Then we are coming up now with a program for our young people, with a program for everybody to become programming proficient. In this day and age, we want people to be able to code. We want people to be able to develop applications that Apple will be promoting. So we're going all the way to the grassroots and we're saying, come and learn at our Luke Coders program. I skipped one thing I want to say. When we created the computer literacy for educators, we had a lot of the community members coming in and saying, I want to learn computer literacy also. And then I'll say to them, oh, it's for educators. And the demand was so much that we created LucoLess, Lucima Computer Literacy for Less. In that program, we opened it up to everybody. Then we had the challenge of the men saying, what about us? Because we started as a women development center. The first man that joined our program, Mr. Samuel, I still remember him. He danced with the women. He did the drama with the women at the graduation. He was so proud. He was the only man. But following that, we opened up LucoLess to everybody and anybody. Our goal is that everyone in Nigeria will be computer literate. And we started with those face-to-face programs. Today, thanks be to God, we're coming to you on our online platform. Thank God for COVID. It's so sad that so many lives have died. But like I talked about earlier, when we talked about resilience and hope, I said change the narrative. Tell that story from the perspective of the opportunities. And so, as it breaks my heart that we've lost so many, I also want to thank God because of the lockdown, because of the stay at home, we've been able to develop online programs. We've been able to, convert some of our face to face to online platform. So our localists, our local coders, and many of our programs will be available to you online. And then I'm not gonna hear. I got tired of people. We had over 10,000 on our Facebook page. It's about 8,000 now. But people just kept coming and saying, "Are you in Port Harcourt? Are you in India? Are you in Ibadan? Do you have a Lucinda there?" And I was always so sad to say, "No, we don't." That's not going to be the story anymore, because from your bedrooms, from your living rooms, we'll be bringing to you quality, life changing, lifelong skills that will last you a lifetime. That is my story. And I'm glad that I'm alive today at 50, telling the story, all to the glory of the Almighty God. And
Thank
thank you,
you.
Queen Amina, for making it possible for me to have this moment to share my joy. Lucinda is my world. It is my joy.
I see.
Lucinda loves you with the love of
Oh,
the
the
Lord.
Lord, this
Lucinda loves you
loves you.
with the
The
love of
love of
the
the
Lord.
Lord, the
Lucinda
same
loves
love
you
you.
with the
Love
love of
of
the
the Lord,
Lord. We
we
say
say,
we love
love
you. And a
you.
word for our donors, a word, about my mother, who Lucinda, the name, is meant to honor. Her name is Lucy Jonah. Lucinda, the Lucy part, Lucy a light. We're there to illuminate our world. Our mantra is to develop the total woman, to illuminate, to beautify our world. Lucia is a derivative of her name. The Mma there, her native name is Mmawoise. It means beauty is a sacrifice. And so
Wow.
we're illuminating and we're beautifying lives. We started with women, but here in the US, we have international charities where we're blessing everybody. But it's all about, you teach a woman, you have taught a nation. You
That's right.
transform a woman, you have transformed a world. It's a global movement. So thank you. A shout out to my mother, who inspired me by living a selfless life my entire growing days. A shout out to my brother, who has been my backbone, who has been my support, who has been my foot soldier. I'm here in the US, and I've run that charity for 16 years. I could not have done it by myself. My mom, my brother, my associates, my volunteers, Mary Lee's of this world, Idowu of this world, Florence of this world. I cannot, oh my God, Alma, Udenta, Mrs. Udenta, soon to be Dr. Udenta, my first coordinator. It's always a problem when I don't write these things down and I'm saying this. So if I'm supposed to mention your name and I didn't, all of our donors, no, all of our volunteers, our resource persons, our guests, we have a program where we bring the creme de la creme to come and talk to our participants. The Yinka Sanis, the Yemisi Tayo Boba, now Yemisi, I keep forgetting the last
Our
name.
time is
Yes.
way
And
gone.
no, I'm coming. And so our donors, the Anazodos, the Maldinis, the Imafidons,
Thank you
um,
guys all so very much.
Bridget Ikejimba, God bless you all. Lucima loves you. Favor Lucima. You don't give me a microphone, girl. You know what I do. Favor Lucima. That's the hashtag, all of you. God bless you.
Favor Lucima, thank you so much for the great work you're doing. And one thing that I really want to thank God for your life is the fact that you are being celebrated while you're living. There's
Amen.
no bigger joy than that.
Amen.
Being celebrated while you're living. I heard from those women yesterday, they were speaking from the heart, how your program changed their lives. So, being celebrated while you're living, no bigger joy than that. The Lord God Almighty bless you. And thank you for, honestly, I was not expecting you on the show. I wasn't.
I woke up with a bang this
That,
morning.
that was a surprise. After all the dancing and everything last night, that was
Girl,
huge.
I had so much fun yesterday.
Yeah, I screenshot some of the dance. I hope you got it. I sent it to you. I'm like, I was just shaking my head. After everything, she still have this energy. God bless you, ma. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my sister. I love you. Thank
I
you for
love
the
you.
award. You know, based on Lucima's work, we got an award from the Vigor Awards International. That was
Yes.
2 years ago.
I,
Thank you for that recognition of our work.
no, thank the people that selected you. It's not in my hands.
Thanks to Vigor Awards International for
That's
that
right.
recognition.
That's
They
right.
brought me to Canada, brought me face to face with the premier. Thank you to Vigor
Yeah.
Awards International.
Yeah, thank you so much. And now that you said that, I'll quickly put it out there. So the Vigo Awards International is going to be this year virtually. We're working on everything, and we're going to be celebrating the first Saturday in October, sorry. First Saturday in October, which is October 4th. So we are going to be announcing that the flyers have been made. The nomination on the website is now open. So please, guys, go nominate your hero. The theme this year is going to be set to, we're going to be celebrating more of
COVID. COVID heroes.
the essential workers and the essential providers. So nominate somebody that is a hero in this COVID-19. It's super important that we celebrate them. And this celebration is going to be super unique because people don't need to be limited by not being able to make it to Canada.
We had the dress rehearsal yesterday.
Right, right.
We had
So
the dress
we're
rehearsal
gonna
yesterday.
celebrate. So guess what? You receiving your award this year, you're going to be receiving your award in the presence of thousands of people.
Millions, girl. What do
Millions.
you
Let
mean?
me not limit
Millions.
myself. Millions of
Millions
people.
of people.
So yes, we're going to be doing the official announcement where me and my co-host, we're going to have a special, maybe 30-minute show, bringing past winners on, giving their testimony, announcing the event coming up. So yeah, that's something I haven't even discussed with her. So she's hearing it for the first time. Yeah. All right, guys, I see some people just coming just now. Chuck, you are late. Sarah, you are late. So yeah, you guys go do a watch party on your platform and listen
Favor
to
Lucima.
Fa-
Favor Lucima.
Favor Lucima. Okay, guys. So go do a watch party. Listen to the whole broadcast again. Help us to share, guys. We're on the move for 10,000 people before the end of the month. I am still believing God. We are
Millions, girl.
4,005. Yeah, so,
Millions.
yeah. You remember you
Millions.
taught me to have the big picture,
Millions.
but
Millions. 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 Millions.
Dr. Mokolo,
Millions. Millions.
you taught me to set it into bite-sized goals.
Well, I didn't say billions. I said millions.
I know, but the
Millions.
millions is the big goal, but the bite size is 10.
Billions. Billions is the big goal, girl.
Okay.
Let's start with millions. Let's start with millions. Yeah.
Okay, so we want 1 million likes, followers on Facebook.
Yes, and we'll get it.
Amen, amen.
Follow the Queen Amina show. That's a hashtag.
Amen.
Follow Queen Amina show.
Amen. Thank you so much. I'm going to create that hashtag today. That's correct. Yeah, I didn't even think about it. Yeah.
Follow the Queen
Follow
Amina
the Queen
show.
Amina show. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for joining us today. We are going to catch you live tomorrow. About our guest is another lady, Christine Carr. She's going to be talking about her personal story. I've come to realize that personal stories connect with people more. So I'm going to be bringing more people that will be telling personal stories of, what they went through and where they are now, just to encourage you that you can do it too. They're humans like you that have been through these things and look where they are now. So why not? So throughout this rest of the season, we'll be talking about more of personal stories. So until then, keep watching the Queen Amina show. We'll see you guys all tomorrow. I love you all. The Queen wave, right? All right, guys. Watch the Queen Amina show every day, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I love you all.